Rishi Sunak at the Tokyo G7 meeting was very, very interesting when it came to the answer he gave on being quizzed about net migration. He said, "I've inherited some numbers. I want to bring the numbers down." In other words, he is blaming his predecessor. Now, it's not clear whether that's Liz Truss or Boris Johnson, but he's blaming other people. And he's distancing himself from this issue. Now, I don't see any great problem with immigration, particularly given the need for immigrants to fill jobs that have been vacated by people from the EU going back to the EU after Brexit, and the severe strain that this has put on the NHS and travel. He said he was asked if he was going to stand by the 2019 election pledge, which was, of course, building on the pledges of previous elections. He says, I've said I want to bring legal migration down. I think illegal migration is undoubtedly the country's priority, and you can see all the work I'm putting into that as well. But on legal migration as well, we're committed to bringing those numbers down. But it's vague. It's vague. And what I think he's doing is putting some distance between himself and Suella. Suella Braverman is the one who dreams about putting people on planes to Rwanda. She's the one who talks about mass migration being unsustainable. She's the one who talks about, with Michael Gove, she talks about inevitable pressure on housing and on public services. The Conservative Party has been saying that people are right to be concerned about levels of mass migration or levels of migration. But in fact, I think when it comes down to it, people are not that concerned about it. People are concerned about the cost of living. And this is being provided as one of the reasons for the rise in living costs. It's not true. If anything, this reduces the cost of living. The number of migrant students who come here to study in our universities reduces the overall costs that we would need to make on domestic students. Foreign students pay significantly more. The idea that we want to reduce the amount of foreign workers in the NHS. Frankly, if we reduce any more foreign workers in the NHS, there will be no NHS. The same with trains and buses. We're in a ridiculous situation where ideology is determining practice, and or ideology is determining politics, and that's absurd. The Farmers' Union are calling for a more permanent solution to seasonal labour shortages, which resulted in £60 million worth of waste last year because of rotting fruit and unpicked vegetables. Farming is a long-term game, and you need to be able to. You need to be sure that there are going to be pickers when the harvest is ready. In the past, that was done very much by student gangs from Eastern Europe. I remember this very clearly from my own childhood in Lincolnshire. When they were stopped by EU directives, there was nothing to replace them. And the legislation that governs employment, effectively encourages people to employ people on a year-long basis. It's very difficult to get people for 2 days in June, 2 days in May, unless they're part of a group of people who are going from farm to farm. And unless they can then go back to other work when the harvest season is over. This worked superbly for the groups of people who used to come over here in the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s. And the stopping of this resulted in the destruction of the bulb industry in Spalding, in Lincolnshire. It's resulted in crises across farming, and they haven't been resolved. If you can't get the labour, there's no point in planting the crop. We shouldn't be surprised that we now see field upon field of rape, because there is nothing else that we can grow economically where we don't need to employ labourers to harvest the yield when it's ready. We are destroying our farming industry as we have destroyed our NHS, as we are destroying our universities with the ideology that migration is bad. Migration is not necessarily bad. Targeted migration is good. And we can't target migration if the only way we're thinking of it is of people who are coming into our country and filling up the holes we need to fill up. We need to give people the dignity to do what they want to do. If people want to come over to the UK and pick flowers in the spring and then go back to their university, I think we should encourage them to do so. I think maybe one other way is to encourage more university students to do work in the vacations. Instead, it's very difficult, particularly if foreign students have come over here, for them to work in vacations, because there's a limit on what they're allowed to do, and so on. We have so many rules governing those migrants who are here that actually they understand their only purpose is to provide money. We need more than money. We need goodwill, and we need labour. And I don't think Suella Braverman's initiative to target small boats, to target migration, is right. I think her initiative should be to target the Home Office and get it working and doing its job. We need to find out how many of the people who are coming over the channel, for example, are genuine asylum seekers, and then if they are asylum seekers, we need to give them asylum, get them off the books, out of the hotels, get them into work if they want to do work, and get them contributing to our economy and grateful to us for being a refuge and being a support, rather than for the rhetoric and the ideology to see them as a millstone round our neck